Hey, people, we're doing a podcast. We're doing a podcast with our real names because our real names are Max. Sam's calling in. AC may show up. We'll see what happens. I'm not holding my breath. You know how AC works. So anyway, we're Almost in Agreement, almostinagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com. While you're there, check us out. And we'll do their Voter Guide 22. It's got KGIS. If you haven't already registered to vote, it's too late. Today was the last day to vote, which for you guys listening will be at least yesterday whenever I get the show together. But Tuesday the 5th was the last day to register. So if you haven't registered yet, you're fucked. But other than that, go to the website. You can learn all about the different candidates that are running, as well as links to KGIS and Knox County Election Commission, so you can know which district you are registered in, who you're actually allowed to vote for, that kind of thing. Go to your favorite podcast provider. Give us a like, share, friend, follow, all those things. Tell your friends about us. We're going to keep doing what we do, and we'll go from there. So we're going to do a show. How about it? It's been a hot minute.
It's been a bit.
Where you been?
Traveling. Like always.
Must be nice. VA benefits paying better than my job I still have.
Yeah, it does.
It's been like a month, 6 weeks since you've been on the show.
I think I called in a time or two inside there. But being in here has probably been that.
Yeah, chasing moose down in the parking lot at a hotel in...
No, that was up in the Rocky Mountain National Park.
Oh.
That was up at the top of the mountain.
I remember it was the elk with me and you when we went up to Loveland or whatever.
Estes Park. That's where we were. And then you go up from there, which we didn't go up there.
When I was visiting with my sister once, we went into Rocky Mountain for a little bit, because apparently there's like one of the entrances you drive in and it goes up, and then you come out on a little. Okay, Sam, you with me?
I'm here.
Okay. Anyway, so you go up, and there's one of those where for East Tennessee people that are used to our mountains, the Rocky Mountains are a whole different animal. They're little babies in the age conversation, but they're massive. But the thing about the Rockies that I learned when my first trip up there was we roll in. We roll into the mountains here. You don't run into the mountains here. You hit a hill, and the hills get bigger and bigger until you're at the heavy part of the mountains here, where out there, it's just flat mountain.
Yep.
And you're going straight uphill. And so anyway, the moral of the story is I remember we went into Rocky Mountain National Park, and we drove in. It's probably like 15 minutes after entering the park. You come around this corner, and you're basically just coming out on the side of this mountain, and you're looking out. You're looking east.
Do you have to pay?
For fuck ever. I don't think so. I don't remember. I was 20.
Yeah. You have to pay to go in. There's like a ranger station you stop at. Like you can drive. There's a lot of places you can drive around in the Rocky Mountains to see beautiful things. But if you want to go in the national park, and it's funny because we pulled in there, and she was like, "You got any military people on board?" And I was like,
"Yeah, me."
And so she's like, "You got an ID?" So I passed my ID up, and she's like, "All right." And Sean's like, what do we got to pay? And she's like, "No, if you have a military person, the car's free." So this would be like $30 for the RV or whatever. And I was like, that was cool as shit. I was just got to go in for free. But nice. Moose and elk. Yeah. So when we were there, they were down low because it was wintertime. Summertime, they go back up high. Yeah. So apparently they're all over Estes Park in the wintertime.
Right. Well, also they don't get shot at Estes Park ever. So it's a cool place. It's a cool place to hang out and not get shot. It's not Chicago. It's a safe town. It's gun-free zone.
But up there, well, you can't hunt in Rocky Mountain National Park either. That's why that pictures I sent you of the video that was just,
right. They don't care that you're 20 feet from them because I'm not.
It wasn't even like I looked back at it and I was like, I could have reached out the window and touched him.
Yeah,
it was that close.
Yeah,
it was pretty neat.
Well, there's another video popped up here where somebody was feeding bear out of the window of their car in Cades Cove or something like that. People are
stupid.
People are smart. Anyway, what's up, Sam Lama? What you doing?
What's going on?
Oh, nothing. We're just getting started. We're
doing our thing.
Yeah. Trying to figure out what's what in the world. So, all right. So, Max, you might have not been following this story much, but Sam and I talked about it last week. So, that whole Amelia Parker episode we were talking about last week, Sam?
Yeah.
She had like 8 items that she took to commission that she wanted to become ballot items. One of the 2 ways to get a ballot item is I'm sorry, not commission, but city council. One of the two ways to get a ballot item is if the legislative body, city council in this case, there's a certain quantity of votes. I don't think it's a simple majority, or maybe it's a simple majority on first reading and super majority on the second, whatever it was, to get these ballot items in place. And it was like 8 different things. 2 of them were pertaining to the election process for city council, and then the other 6 were about budget issues. And 0 passed, and I can't remember the exact number, but like 2 to 4, somewhere 2, 3, or 4 didn't even get a second to get voted on. So they didn't even pass the point of, okay, discussion. Like, they didn't even get to discussion. It's like, here's a motion to hear this topic. Amelia Parker puts out the motion. Nobody seconds it, so it dies on right there and moves on. And like, some of it I get, and some of it's like, the history of her and the city council and stuff like that. I understand the dynamic of why it kind of played out, but some of them made sense to me. Like, I mean, some of them didn't, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The city mayor can do whatever the fuck she wants with budget. The city council can't really do anything to stop her. And so a lot of what she was asking for was more time. And it's like, well, you could take a year to look over her budget. If you don't like it, she doesn't care. She's not going to change it, and she still gets her budget. So that's, some of it was kind of, this is a moot point. But I think it's an issue. I think it's an issue that a lot of city council members, it's something that I took issue with when I started to get an understanding of it. It's like, oh, so she presents her budget on Tuesday. We have to pass it on first reading on the Wednesday before we're even allowed to talk about it. We don't get to see it any time before that. And then they have like 2 weeks to have some meetings, have discussions, go talk to the different department heads and stuff like that. If there's anything that's like, well, Parks Department's got a little bigger budget this year. What's going on with that? Why do we have so much more in this section or whatever? They can go talk to the department heads about it, but they only have a tiny window to do it. And then by the end of it, if the city council doesn't pass it, it passes anyway.
So why isn't even discussion?
It's a good question. I mean, I guess there's the political of it. If they really pitch a fit, that the mayor kind of has at least some political pressure to go, okay, let me make some adjustments because you guys asked. But it's not obligated. Like, they can move, like, as I understand it, is like, so let's say Parks Department, we'll pick on Parks Department. Let's say they say, look, there's this, Parks Department has this whole, their whole subset of the budget. They're doing this and this and this. They're trying to, one of the things on their docket this year is to revamp this nice park that's already a nice park out in Farragut. Well, the city council, or not Farragut because that wouldn't be in the city, but some nice park somewhere that they want to do a major upgrade on that's like $500,000. Well, we don't want you to do that. Well, you can't pick what in the Parks Department. You can just adjust the total Parks Department budget. So we're like, hey, we're going to knock the Parks Department budget down $250. And then the city council votes on the end of it. And then the mayor, as I understand it, is not obligated to take that, but you can. But then at the same time, even if they knock it off saying, we're taking this $250 off so you don't spend it on that park project that you want to do,
they can still spend it and cut something else out.
Yeah, it's just it only takes the total off the top. But it's the system that the city works in, and so, and again, with Amelia's kind of general political philosophy, I understand that she doesn't like the system the way it is, and so she's trying to make adjustments. But after the fact, she lost her shit, and so like there was one person that actually came and spoke during that section of the meeting, who after the meeting sent Amelia an email directly, saying, look, I was on board with some of the stuff you were trying to do, but the way you're going about it's all wrong, and if nobody's running against you when your next election up, I am. So Amelia replies to that email and BCCs the entire city council, talking about the email's out there somewhere, but kind of addressing some of the complaints from this constituent, but also talking about how Chris Davis, you're welcome, you got to mention on the show today. Chris Davis was lied to her about it, and the city council is a bunch of spineless, too pussy to actually try to put something together and do anything of real change or whatever, which, is out of the norm. That's, generally speaking, the city council are at least functionally polite to each other in public. So.
Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway, that was that mess, Sam. Was there anything else on that we wanted to finish up on? Because I know we talked about it last week.
I don't think we talked about that aspect last week.
Well, we didn't know the aftermath because it hadn't happened yet.
No.
Like, all that part was fresh. Like, she laid into the Compass guys and said that they were hacks, and they were, they had political agenda that they were chasing down, which has become a further topic. And I got in another fight with Brian on Facebook because Brian, whatever the fuck his name is a douche canoe.
For who's he with? Nobody. He's just some guy that thinks he's right. Oh, just
like
some
me,
random guy,
exactly like me. But I mean, the thing is, so like he laid into me a couple weeks ago. Well, I commented on somebody else's thing, and then he started laying into me. I was like, nobody asked you to jump in on this. This is a fucking public thing. I'll do whatever I want. And so other times when he says something stupid in somebody else's thing, I comment on it. Nobody asked you to fucking be here. Okay.
What is it? What are you commenting on? Like,
It
what
depends.
forum is it? So you guys
Well,
go in the same circles?
Right. Well, that's why I was joking with Sam about this last week. It's like, I would argue that I have probably the weirdest. Like, I don't think Facebook understands my algorithm. Like, I can't. Like, there's no way. Because I have both party chairs, the state Libertarian Party reps, and like, politically speaking, my follows to kind of isolate anything make no sense. And so I'll be on my Facebook feed, and it'll be Elizabeth Murphy talking about drinking pee, followed up by the Knox Dems talking about how Glenn Jacobs hates children, and then followed by an Elaine Davis ad for her campaign run right now. It's like, these are all over the map as far as you can't pigeonhole me on this, and I'll pick on all of them. I'll like, when any of them say something stupid, I try to call them out on it. Like, I call out Mayor Jacobs as the Republican. Shut up talking about gas prices. You're the mayor of Knox County. You have zero to do with that. And how about you? Like, he did a video a couple weeks ago, and I commented on it. I was like, look, you're the mayor of Knox County. You can't do anything about gas prices, and you can't do anything about the school board. You should be campaigning for yourself and your job and what you can do as mayor, not telling me who to vote for school board. Because he has a certain set of school board people that are Republicans that he wants to elect, and it's like, they have nothing to do with you. You guys don't work together barely at all.
I thought he was an independent.
No, he's theoretically a libertarian.
Yeah, libertarian.
He's not a good one. He has some stuff that he does well, libertarian. Like, he's Glenn Jacobs to me is the libertarian that everybody assumes I am, because when everybody hears libertarian, they think of a Glenn Jacobs type libertarian, which they're really just a Republican, like an actual, like, old school traditional real Republican. Which, if I had to pick of the two, I would take the old school Republican, because that's the old school Republican, which is less government interference, less taxes, take care of your own stuff. But then you add in the you better love Jesus or you don't count part of the Republican side, which I'm not on board with.
You better love Jesus.
If you don't love Jesus, you're not okay with me. Jesus is just anyway.
That's funny.
And so I don't know. But this guy Brian, like he's laying into the Compass guys because they did a story on District 3 commission race, which includes Gina Oster. Gina Oster's on the Merit Council. The Merit Council's in a bunch of shit because it costs like $500,000 to do absolutely nothing over the last 18 months with a bunch of these different cases going on. Nothing really changed. The one major case is this Martha Dooley character who was mad at Sheriff Spangler because Sheriff Spangler took her county car away, and then as soon as Spangler won the primary, she quit because she was of the JJ camp, and she was holding on to the job hoping JJ was coming back, and then when it was JJ's not coming back.
And what did she do?
She was not JJ, whoever's before JJ brought her in to be his comms director.
Hutchinson.
And at the time, she was with some news organization making pretty good money. And so county standards wouldn't let him pay more than a certain amount for the position. And so as an incentive, and it makes sense, like I get the argument for the case that was at play. So as an incentive to bring her over, I can't pay you anymore, but I'll give you a county car. You can drive to and from work with it. And when you have to go downtown for a press conference because you're the comms director, you can drive our car. You don't have to do your own gas and stuff like that. And for all accounts, she only used it for work purposes. She drove it to and from work, and that was it. Or if it was a work-related thing. But when Spangler came in, he replaced her with his own comms director, who was his comms director for his campaign, and who is the comms director currently. And, as some of the civic rules and shit go, he can't fire somebody because that's what the Merit Council is supposed to be there for. It's like, well, I can't fire you because of political purposes because you worked for the previous sheriff, but I'm allowed to, you can move them laterally. So he moved her to some other desk job and took away her car. Because you don't need the car. The only reason you need it, the only reason the car made sense is because you were driving back and forth to places. You're not driving back and forth places anymore, so take the car back. And then
So what is she mad about?
She alleged that the car was part of her compensation package. It was not part of her job. It was part of her compensation package, which it's theoretically true. But in that 12-year period or whatever before Spangler after she took the job, she'd gotten a bunch of different raises and had a bunch of different pay changes and stuff like that because the way the department had moved and the position became more like an official position where originally it was more like a soft position that didn't normally exist. And so as that became an official position that the state recognized that there was and opened up their ability to pay in a more industry standard rate, she got her actual pay came up, but the car stayed. And so Spangler's argument was always, you're getting paid enough for the job. the car bonus isn't required anymore because you're actually getting the base pay now.
But like in the White House, let's say, when the new president comes in, who retains their job? You know, if you're working for an elected official, you've got to understand that you're
right. And I think it depends on the job too. Like,
well, obviously, Secret Service they stay there because
that's what I'm saying. But like some, just a regular deputy running around town, he shouldn't have to worry about losing his job.
No.
And that's what theoretically that's what the Merit System Council was supposed to be built for, is employees of the sheriff's office who, like, what they didn't want was a new sheriff coming in and firing all the people in the sheriff's office that voted for the old sheriff. Yeah,
but if you're the communications director.
Mm-hmm.
So you're putting out, is that person's job like the person at the White House? It was that red-headed chick, and now it's that black chick.
Yeah,
that job. You're a representation of the
right. You're the PR.
Elected, the PR person for that person. So yeah, you should lose your job if a new person comes in.
I mean, if the new person wants to keep you, that's fine. But it's you're right. You're my spokesperson.
Yes,
and I want somebody that I know and trust doing that job, not somebody that worked for the guy whose job I just took.
Yeah, if the guy before you had completely different views.
Who was Trump's lady that was kick-ass? Like she was
Kayleigh McEnany.
Yeah.
Well, see, I didn't even know that the redheaded chick. I didn't even know she left. I was watching TV.
Yeah,
one
she's
day,
on MSNBC or some shit now.
There's the new lady on there, and I was like,
"That was
when
fucking
did that
weird.
happen?"
That was fucking weird. That whole thing. Like she was in open public, not public negotiations, but the fact that she was negotiating with CNN or whoever about her new job while still being the press secretary for the president of the United States. It's kind of weird.
I liked her a lot better than the new lady. The new lady seems like every time they ask her a question, she's like, I don't know. I'll get back to you on that.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
She's speaking for Biden. What do you expect?
I don't know.
I'm terrible. So that was the Amelia Parker thing. And that was the Merit System Council. Oh, yeah, so the Bryan guys pitched a fit because Gina Oster is the chair of the Merit System Council, and he wanted when the Compass did the story on the Commission District 3 race, when they were talking about Gina's side of it, he said that they should have mentioned the fact that she was the chair, which I think they said they did, but that also that she was the chair that wasted $500,000. And it's like, and he kept saying fact, and I was like, well, wasted $500,000 is not a fact. That's an opinion. Somebody out there might think that $500,000 is worth it. I'd say Martha Dooley probably felt like it was worth it because she got to keep her car when it was all said and done because of all the back and forth bullshit efforts. Or Sheriff Spangler was part of the problem because he was the one hiring an outside attorney that cost money that the county had to pay for. Now, who was wasting the money is an opinion. We don't know whether whose side of the story you're on is who you think's wasting the money. And since you're not on, since he specifically hates Gina Oster because she's a Republican and she's a very Trumper Republican and she's the worst kind of Republican there is or whatever, that's fine. But since he just hates Republicans so much, he wants the story written in a way to make sure the Republican looks like shit, and he feels like it's okay for him to tell the writer of the story how to write a story. And then and the Compass guys are much better at being more diplomatic about their return on it. And I was like, dude, those aren't facts. Yes, it is a fact that the Merit System Council's crazy, weird body that exists. And yes, it's a fact that Gina's on that, but it's not a fact that it's wasted money. You think it's wasted money, and that's fine, and you're entitled to that opinion. You go out and write a fucking story, and you put a paper together, and you tell people what you want. Because all you do is turn around with all the Knox Dem shit and just post it. That's all you do. He follows everybody that's a Democrat running in Knoxville and just posts the shit out of it. And talks about everybody else as the evil devil and whatever, and these are the right people. That's all he does. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, and like one of the ones I got in was like abortion stuff. It's like, look, man, this is as much Pelosi and Biden's fault as it is the Republicans. So you can shit on the Republicans. That's fine. I agree. But you had an Obama White House that had majority and a supermajority in the Senate at the time. And I believe Obama said in a quote that one of the first things he would do as president was codify Roe v. Wade. Didn't do it. And now you have a White House and Senate and Congress that are Democrat-led, and here we are not doing it.
Yeah, the whole abortion, but that's how it should be. Honestly, I mean the government shouldn't be saying what we should do. That it should be a state issue. And this whole thing about people talking about, they just outlawed abortion and I'm like, no, they didn't outlaw abortion. Do you even know what happened? Like, majority of the people have no idea what happened.
Like, if you live in California, nothing changes. If you live in New York, nothing changes. If you live in Illinois, nothing changes. If you live in a red state, shit's going to change.
If you live in Texas, it's probably going to change.
But it's I don't know.
And I don't get the people like, oh, they're gonna like make sure people have pregnancy tests before leaving the state of Texas, and I'm like, really? Really?
I mean, there is talks of Tennessee's doing it too. There is talks of trying to figure out a way to make it illegal to leave the state, get an abortion, and come back.
How?
I don't know, but that's
crazy talk.
Well, so was overturning Roe v. Wade, so I don't know anymore. I mean,
honestly, overturning Roe v. Wade is just it. I hate to say it makes sense.
Again, on the legal part of the conversation, I agree with you. It makes sense. Agree or disagree with the outcome of what's going on right now. This should be a decision made by elected representatives or the public at large. This should not be a decision that's sitting around waiting on a court decision. This should be something that is specifically. It's such a huge issue. This is something that either we should put on a ballot and let us vote on it, or at least our representatives are the ones that make the laws about it, instead of it being this weird. I don't think it's appropriate that it is a non-legislative law that has been existing how it has. Yeah. So I agree with you on that point. I don't know. It's not important for this part of the conversation which side of the abortion table you're on.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that women shouldn't have abortions. I'm not saying that at all. I just think that it should be a state's issue. Most of the stuff we agree with the state issue that states should be able to legalize marijuana when the federal government says it's illegal, and we're all pro that, right?
Right.
So why would we not be pro other things? It just doesn't make sense.
Oh, it's fucking raining. Oh my shit. It already got wet once. It'll be fine. Yeah, I don't know. Again, Sam and I went and did this a couple weeks, week ago, or whatever.
Well, I was this last weekend. I hung out with a bunch of Democrats and stuff, and it was funny the conversations we had and stuff, because they're like, Trump's the worst president ever. Trump's horrible. And none of them could name a single thing why they didn't like Trump, except for, do you hear how he talks? Do you hear what he says? I'm like, no, let's talk about what he does. Tell me something that made him a bad president because of something he did. And nobody could come up with one single thing, except for my brother, of something that they were mad at Trump about, other than he's pompous, he's an asshole, and the way he talks down to people, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, that's his personality. So you don't like his personality. No, but tell me about
I'll push back a little bit. There is...
I'm sure you can come up with stuff.
Well, not even that, but even just on the personality stuff, there is the part of me that likes to watch the world burn loved him for the lack of decorum. Like the part of me that's just like, fuck it, chaos, yay, loved him for it. But at the same time, and this is I think where Sam's kind of more at, there is an international outlook as well as a national outlook that. Because for me, it's not a policy thing that makes Trump one of the worst presidents of all time. What makes Trump one of the worst presidents of all time is he took an already divided left-right and went way left-right. He took that trench that already existed in the middle and brought bulldozers through, and went from a couple feet wide to a 5-mile wide ditch.
Yeah, I thought he would break the parties and people realize that they are not Democrats or Republicans.
We had hopes, yeah.
That was the hope, but he divided it worse. But I brought up the point. I said, would you rather have a person that said, I hate black people, I'm part of the KKK, black people are the worst thing ever, but everything he did was to support black people and do everything for black people? Or would you rather have a person that says, I love black people are the best thing in the world, we need to do everything we can for black people?
I know you didn't mean to do it, but your second voice kind of rolled into the Trump voice a little bit. I love black people. I have many black friends.
But then do absolutely nothing for the black community. I mean, which person would you want better? Not saying that Trump is the first or the second person,
right?
But it's.
Well, what you want is one that's actually in the middle, that says the thing and does the thing, and says the right thing and does the right thing. I guess is what we want. But if I had to pick between those two XY combinations, I'd prefer the one that does the right thing over the one that says the right thing. Yes. And I get what you're saying on that.
And that was my point. But
this is an interesting combo, by the way.
It was funny. They talked about gun control. They're like, well, you don't believe in gun control. I was like, no, I do believe in gun control.
All right, so this is a good one, because Sam and I talked a couple weeks ago. He thinks I'm crazy about red flag laws being a slippery slope, and I think you agree with Sam on this one, which I think is crazy, a different version of crazy. But Sam, you said you did some homework on it. Help me out. Cue me up to be crazy.
Oh, I mean, I sent you what few states that I could find. I think I found like 3 different states, like their actual state statutes on it.
Oh, that was forever ago.
Well, I did it like right after you asked me to do it.
Yeah, he did what he was told to do.
You said,
well,
your
we were
homework.
talking earlier today. You're like, I got some
my homework. Oh, I was just saying you asked me to look up red flag laws, and then I did. And then that was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I've heard of the red flag laws. I don't know of what any of them have said.
Because one of the things we talked about, one of the things, like it's to me, like all the ones I've seen, including the ones you sent, Sam, it's generally speaking, that it could be that a judge agree, like that an individual or the police can report a friend or family member or neighbor or something like that they are a credible threat to themselves or others. And if the judge agrees, they can basically issue a warrant that says that they can go out and get your guns from you.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But that is the core principle. Am I close, Sam?
That's what I've heard. I've heard that they can turn to their neighbor and they'll come and get all your guns. If that's the case, I don't like it.
Hold on, Sam, go.
I think they can court order you to turn them over. I don't think they necessarily, search all of your premises to make sure that you've got all of them. I think some states are a little different. I think Vermont seemed to have a pretty good system.
Okay, but the court order says you have to turn in your gun and you don't. What do they do?
Right.
If you're caught with a gun, you go to jail?
I think essentially be contempt of court is what they could get you for after that if you're defying a court order.
So you're going to jail now.
For contempt of court.
For contempt of court, not for possession of a firearm that you're allowed to legally own, theoretically, except they said you can't today.
Right.
Okay.
No, but when we're talking about with those people, they're like, you think everyone should have a gun? I said, no, I don't. I don't think criminals should have guns. I don't think felons should have guns. I don't think child molesters should have guns. I don't think people that deal with mental health should have guns. So they're like, so then you're for background checks. I was like, there already are background checks. We already have do the background checks.
I wish I was there because I would have been like, no, they don't need to be background checks. Yeah, fucking stupid.
You would have. But I was like, see, like we're all in the same thing. I said, this is, and my wife was there, and I was like, see, this is the problem I have with the Democratic Party. I like the idea of a lot of the stuff they said. And I said, it's the same thing as my wife. I like the idea of her cooking dinner. The execution is awful.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, free education. Everyone should have free college. I like that idea. That's cool. How are you going to execute it? Probably bad if you give it up to the Democrats to do it. And so I said, that's what makes me not be on the Democrat side. Do a lot of the things that they stand for, I care about? Yes. And I said, the one big thing that we didn't agree on, that nothing was close on, is because I'm a white male, I'm the devil, and my children need to be punished because they're white. And they wouldn't agree with that. They're like, that's not true. I said, I've had a black son that I adopted that was the same age as my son that's 13. I said, and when it comes around to college, who's going to have an easier chance? My black son is going to have an easier chance of going to college than my white son. Well, no, there's a lot of stuff out there. I was like, and I said, no, really, he's going to have easier chance to get scholarships than my white son.
All other things being equal, it is a factor that makes it more.
And I said, you can't deny that.
Right.
They're like, well, there's a lot of rich people out there that can afford to send their kids to college. I was like, so now we have rich white people, so we have to punish the poor white people for it?
That's the thing with Democrats that they fail at, is they fail to recognize what the actual demographic difference that they should be fighting is, and they suck at it. The actual demographic difference that they should be fighting is the wealth gap, which they talk about but fail at miserably. It's the wealth gap that's like to me it's the money versus not money. That is the fight. So that has always been the fight, but we're too busy being distracted by a black-white fight or a gay-straight fight or a trans-cis fight or whatever the fuck it is. To me it is all about money, and it's not in that stupid old school tropey way. It's like politics is all about money.
So what do you think that to be in the top 10%, what do you have to make in the United States?
In the United States, like $250,000 a year, something like that.
Look it up.
Is it less than that? Are we in the top 10%?
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah. And I made the joke. I was like, I want to keep my money. I want to be in the top 10% one day. And then I was like, we looked it up, and I was like, oh.
Top 1% is $823 a year. Top 5's $342.
Close.
Top 10's $173. Yeah, we're not there.
But 173, you wouldn't think was the top
No.
10% of the United States, you know? And so when people want to raise the taxes on people that are in the top 10%, it's like, that's not far off from a majority of people. Pretty interesting. I would have never, ever guessed that.
I was trying to find the inverse and see what the bottom is. I mean, I guess the bottom 10% is zero. Because there's probably in and of itself, there's 10% of the U.S. population.
Well, the bottom 40 does not pay any taxes.
Right.
And the top 1% pays 40 or 50%? What does it come out to?
I don't know. I mean...
So we got in that argument over not argument, discussion. Most of the stuff we agreed on. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, see, you are closer to me than you think, and I'm closer to you than I think. I said there's just very few things that separate us, but it's the media that wants to make us believe that we are so far apart. Look at that Dolly Parton.
It's the politics and the media combination that tell us we're on the other right. They pit stupid fights. Like one of the things. They
bring up the Proud Boys. I was like, those are radical fucking idiots. You know,
right? Well, it's like well, one, you're right. They paint the brush like it's too easy to paint the brush that the worst 0.5% of a left or right is the entirety of the left or right. All liberal-minded people are Black Lives Matter. All conservative-minded people are Proud Boys. It's like, no, not at all. Actually, 90% of the total population is closer to the actual center than any of that shit that's going on.
Yeah, but they don't want us to believe that.
Right. Well, because the system only works that way. Like, the system only works in the primary process and all the other bullshit by propping the parties up, and by propping the parties up, it keeps pushing it further right and left. And that their job to get elected in Knox County, you need to be the furthest version of right, because you're not going to win your primary if you're the more center right candidate. And then it doesn't matter after that. Whoever's the candidate that has the R next to him is going to win Knox County. And so, because even if we were a more purple county, you need to be the far right or the far left version. Those are the ones that are going to win the primary. And so those of us that are in the middle, which are the majority of us, are going to get stuck between a far right and a far left candidate because the party members chose. Because that's who they have to appeal to get on the general. That sucks.
Yes. So did you celebrate his birthday yesterday?
No, you don't even know who he is. How do you know when his birthday is?
Post Malone?
That's not Post Malone.
Who is that?
It's Macklemore.
I thought you had a Post Malone poster up here.
You were excited to bring
His birthday was yesterday.
Post Malone's kind of interesting, I guess.
Is that the same people?
It's a white guy, yeah. He's one of those people. What do you mean? They're not a group?
Macklemore.
It's Macklemore and Ryan Lewis are the two. They're the duo.
Are you sure it's not the same person? They just have different names.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I think Post Malone has a bunch of tattoos, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got all the face tats and stuff. Like, I think I think over like both of his eyebrows, it says like always tired.
Always tired.
Yeah, it's something stupid. But yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to think of what else is going on. What did you do for the 4th?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Sat in the backyard, watched the
Neighbors.
I worked last night.
I might be crazy. I think I could see downtown. I think I could see the downtown show from the top of Rocky Hill.
Huh. Our neighbors had a really good fireworks display Saturday and Monday, like huge. And they shot it over my backyard.
Have a permit for that?
Yeah, in the county. You're supposed to.
Yep.
But who's going to be arresting people for shooting fireworks?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're a vet. You're the one that gets upset about it.
No.
I saw a good post. It was like, all right, all you vets and dog owners, you better sleep in Tuesday morning. We've been up all night watching fireworks. That was good. That's funny. I'm trying to think what else going on. I mean, with the holiday, it makes it a less civically active weekend. Week, especially locally. I mean, early voting starts in a week and a half. July 15th, I think, is the first day of early voting.
Who are you voting for, Sheriff?
Sheriff's already done.
Well, no. Like, if nobody votes for him, does he still get elected?
I mean, sure, but at least as far as I know, there's no registered write-in candidate. So, assuming that Spanky votes for himself, he will win the seat.
Yeah.
unless there's somebody that's officially registered as a write-in, which I have not heard there is one for that. I've heard there's a couple, but not for that seat.
Interesting.
Yeah. You're stuck with Ronda Lee, and you get to pick Dominique Oakley or Steve Triplett. Steve Triplett's the one that stole money, remember?
Oh, yeah. Damn thief. No, he paid it back.
He did.
He paid it back, but did not admit. Like, I'll pay it back, but I will not admit.
Well, I mean, I paid it back, and I don't know. I mean, I kind of get it. We talked about it a little bit back when it happened, or when it was the story or whatever. It's like, for good or for bad, he rectified the situation. Moving on. Didn't feel the need to bring it back up. Now, I acknowledge the idea of that, but if you're going to run for public office anywhere, you should know better than to think it's not going to show up somewhere. And so, I disagree with the argument that's, it's settled as in the past that I don't need to address it.
Now, if you're a politician, nothing's ever in the past.
Right.
You can't change your mind, even though in 1972 you felt a certain way.
I disagree with that part, but
no, but that's how it is. Like,
but you still need to, like, something like this particular one. I think it would have been who of you to acknowledge it. Be like, look.
Well, no, I'm saying, like,
especially when you're running on the fact that I was a school administrator, and that's why I have experience to take a position on the school board.
Well, I was more meaning like Biden and Hillary, the stuff that
right when they hated gay marriage.
The stuff back in the day in the 70s where they were against gay marriage, and then now they're for gay marriage, and people are like, well, back in the day, I was like, oh, yeah, so you can't change your mind on a topic. I got you. If you believed it when you were 4, that's how it is.
Exactly. And that is that is one of the messes that we have stuck ourselves in. That made me think so. Oh, we were talking about, we were going back and forth on the average age thing with the chart I sent. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I think it's a good chart.
The congressional representative, so this is Congress only, doesn't include the White House. In 2020, the average age of Democrats was 64. Republicans, 57. I think it's a problem. I like we joked about it before on the show. I remember having the conversation where it was.
Well, when you look at like that graph, you don't see, which is the one that Sam I think sent, right?
This is the one that Sam sent. This is the one that I sent.
Yeah, the one that you sent has it lets you see where we have been
progressing.
You can kind of see where in 61. Obviously, a bunch of Republicans had a bunch of new people come in, and then you see in whatever 75 or something like that, to
81.
81. You see where you see both the Democrats and the Republicans had some new blood, but from 81, the Democrats just go straight up, and you see some new blood in the Republicans in. 95, and then again in 2015.
I mean, at some point, Pelosi and McConnell and Chuck Schumer and
all those
Bernie Sanders,
they're all going to die.
They got to die at some point.
And then that thing on the
what's her face out of California? Ever heard that story?
No.
What is her name out of California?
Nancy Pelosi.
Like yes, but that's not the one I'm referencing. Like
Feinstein.
she's legitimately losing her shit, not in the jokey Biden sort of way, but like legitimately losing her shit. And I think she's on the ballot right now, and the party is doing everything they can to get her to keep the seat. And it's like I understand that you have as a party you have an obligation to try to get the Democrat elected, but anybody should have been like, hey, maybe it's time
we get somebody else.
We let this one go, and we bring somebody new in, and hopefully this new person can be. I mean, you're still a Democrat from California. You've got a good shot of winning, and. And it's like, because to me, all that does is scream what the objective is. The objective is to have more of my team on the field than yours.
Give her cue cards when she goes in to vote.
Right.
You're going to say yes on this.
Because really, when it comes down to it, the staffers are the one that are doing all the legwork, and it's hey, Pelosi or Schumer told us to do this, so do it.
The whip's out there, whipping away.
Yeah, which I mean, and McConnell does the same thing, and like that's one of the AC's points that I think he's right on. Is like even like what was it? There was that windfall tax bill or whatever they were trying to do for gas prices. They're trying to do something about gas price gouging that's going on right now. And somebody posted it, and the photo was like, just so you know, all 270 Republicans voted no to this. And it's like, okay, I agree, that's shitty Republican stuff. But of the Democrats, there's 207, and it was 217 Democrats, and then 4 no's from the Democrats. And it's like, it does say something about how much better at the game the Republicans are. That when the Republicans say, we're not doing this, none of them do. But when the Democrats say, we're doing this, some are like, maybe. Yeah. Like 4 or 5. Not perfect. And what really bothers me looking at those charts whenever they come out is the 4 or 5 no votes. Like, no votes as in didn't vote, not yay or nay. Like,
weren't there or something?
Right. Or abstained from voting. It's like, no, bullshit. You have to vote on this. I don't like that.
Yeah, and then there's certain, there'll be people that don't want to vote for with their party, so then they don't even show up.
Yeah, I think that as part of your job as a congressman, you have to vote on an issue that's on the floor. You don't get to pass. That's horseshit. Sam, thoughts?
I don't know about requiring votes on everything. I can kind of get behind the sentiment.
I mean, I can get
because some of them do it. I mean, just because they don't want to have their thing on the record if they're in a purple district.
Well, but fuck you. Like, that's exactly the reason you should have to vote. Like,
I agree.
Like, I'm in a coma right now because I got hit by a truck. Okay, I accept that as a reason why you might not get to vote today. But, like, I don't want to vote on it because it might upset my constituency. Well,
right.
That's your job.
It gets worse when it gets into committees, when you're looking at, like a 5-4 split or whatever. Or,
Right, or you're right. It's a 5-4, but it's an 11-member committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the two abstain from voting could swing it the other way. It's just they're not voting because they don't want to upset somebody or themselves or.
Right, that's where bills can fail in committee and just never make it to a floor to actually get any traction.
Yeah. All right. So the big one to me right now is this Governor Lee Hillsdale thing. This was like Wednesday last week when it kind of started blowing up, and it's been nonstop for me and my crazy Facebook feed.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's the guy that you accidentally said lady.
Huh?
Oh, shit. What did I do?
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Right. So there's this video floating around of Governor Lee at some sort of closed door thing, and so somebody snuck in their camera. Somebody's undercovering this shit. But anyway, Larry Arnn, and he's the CEO of this whatever Hillsdale College thingy that's going to be a bunch of charter schools and so on, right? And basically says the shittiest teachers teach teachers at the shittiest colleges to teach. And we don't believe in that at Hillsdale and whatever. And the outrage is that Governor Lee didn't stop a mid-sentence and be like, no, it's not okay.
Teachers come from the dumbest part of the dumbest college.
Right. Which, I don't know. I'm sure there's some. I'm sure there's some that aren't. I don't know. But to me, that in and of itself, I agree with. Okay, fine. It's a fucked up thing to say. But to me, like, the issue, the real issue at play for this to me is like, is anybody actually surprised by this? Lee ran on vouchers. One of his things when he ran for governor was that he wanted to put a school choice program in place. He didn't say vouchers because that's a no-no word. But he ran on school choice. Like, that was one of the things he ran for governor on. That's one of the things he's running currently for governor on. We knew this about him from the get-go.
I don't have a problem with school choice. I have a problem with vouchers, though.
Okay. But for all intents and purposes, when the phrase school choice comes out, they're talking about vouchers right now.
Yeah,
now, I understand what you mean, where it's like if it's a public school, you can pick any public school as long as it's in the greater district. So if you're in Knox County, you can go to any school in Knox County.
Yeah. You
have to deal with your own transportation if it's not the one that you're zoned for. Like, I get what you're saying on that, but when the conversation, like, that's one of those phrases that the working definition, thank you, AC, is school choice means vouchers. Like, they are interchangeable wordings for the same thing.
Well, we can still have vouchers, but it doesn't count if you go to a private school.
But I'm just saying, my problem with it, like, the outrage, like, it seemed to me, and again, I think it's an outrageous thing that have happened. And I think it's weird, and it's probably oddly not a very smart political move for Lee. It might actually be a smart move. I'm not sure, but it seems like a weird thing for him to do to put himself in a position where he could have this come out and be a public issue. I think that's a weird thing on his part to put himself there. Although he is pushing hard to get a bunch of Hillsdale schools. He wants 50 or 100 in the next couple of years of their charter schools to come into the state and all that kind of stuff. And so, but to me, it's like Gloria Johnson, Sam McKenzie, Greg Kaplan, all the ones that are either current House members or senators in Tennessee that are on the Democratic side of the ticket, or the ones that are running for these seats, are all up in arms like this is a surprise. And I don't think it's a surprise. And it's like, so it's not manufactured outrage, and that it's not an outrageous thing to have happened, but it's manufactured outrage as if anybody didn't already know this. Like, we all knew this. If you follow it at all, you already knew this. Now, I guess the play here from the Democrats is, well, there's some people that didn't know this part about Lee, and we want to get them to come to our side. It's like, the people that don't know it, and they don't know who you are, what the fuck you're talking about either. So, who are you at? Who's your audience here that you're trying to get upset about it?
And and that's not going to be a deal breaker. That's not something that's going to move somebody across party lines.
Right. And to me, it's like, right. Like, what, if you already know who Gloria Johnson is, and when you already hear her speak, you're like, oh, that lady knows what she's talking about. You already know. It's not moving the needle for you. You're probably already on the left side of the game anyway. And so, like, I don't know, like the abortion one makes more sense of having a actual political movement move the needle, because you have a bunch of suburban women that are probably like, I kind of wish that was still an option, than this school issue. Because again, the other thing too is you have a lot of parents right now that are fucking pissed off at schools. And so you trying to defend public school teachers right now may not be the best political move for you as Democrats. I understand that as the philosophical move for your party, but realistically, there are a lot of parents through the pandemic especially, but even prior to pandemic, were really frustrated with how public schools are going and don't think they're going in the right direction. And so for somebody to say to me, can you believe that they're trying to get this thing to do this thing different? Yeah, I'm in. What are we talking about? No, it's terrible. They hate teachers. It's like, okay, I'm not really a fan of teachers right now either. You're pushing me towards Lee, not away from Lee.
What's something funny? So my sister-in-law's a teacher, and when we were traveling around, she had like a Ziploc bag, and I was like, man, they were really nice quality Ziploc bags. Sometimes they're just crappy. Sometimes they're really nice. I was like, it's really nice. She's like, hey, you can thank whatever county school system for that. And I was like, what? And she's like, I'll never have to buy Ziplocs or Kleenex again. And I was like, I knew you fucking teachers just asked for all that shit every year, and you didn't really need it.
Took it home.
Just using that shit at your house.
But we've talked about this a billion times. Like I like you probably put it best like a year and a half ago when we first had this conversation. First day of school, just tell me the number. Just tell me the fucking number.
Yep. Don't
do a fundraiser. Don't do this other thing. Just tell me the number that we need to get my kids through school. But again, that's one of those, the grander version of it that nobody fucking knows the answer to.
Well, I had two little girls. They had to be like 6 and 8 that came to my door like 2 weeks ago, selling chocolate bars. I don't even know what they were selling it for. Girl Scouts. Well, Girl Scouts don't sell that. Whatever it was. And I was like, is that box full? And I was like, yeah, how many? I was like, how many are in there? And she counted. There was like 42. And I got $42. I was like, here's $42. I want the whole box. And then I was like, I don't want that much chocolate. So I gave her the $42 and took like 5 out. And I was like, have fun. They showed up yesterday.
Trying to sell some more?
Trying to sell some more. And I was like, I already bought. I said, didn't I already buy
I bought 5 for $42, bitches. Get out of here.
A box of chocolates off you? Are you guys that hungry? Did you go through all those chocolates already? And they were like, no. And I was like, no, I'm not going to buy any more. Now they're going to be at my house for every time they have a fundraiser.
Yeah. I mean, you fucked up, buddy. You let them know you have it.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, that's the one. That's the guy's house. There's probably a mark on your mailbox. There's probably some secret code these kids are moving around. I'm just saying, to me, they're like, I understand kids are different. It's not like every single kid's exactly the same. But I can't figure out why we can't find a general number, a logical general number that would get them through a year of school. The things they need, both in materials, the cost of teaching, the cost of facilities. I can't imagine the math can't be done to say, okay, it costs $7,000 per kid, give or take. Like, it doesn't. I'm not saying it like it has to be an exact to the penny number. That if it's over or under by a dime, you should be hung. but at least something relatively close. Because there's got to be some normalcy to it, and it's a matter of playing the game of the abnormal, the ones that don't need the extra help because they're smarter than that, they just came that way, or their parents have the money and they put them in private tutoring or whatever, like that kind of shit, or the ones that need the extra help and that offset that. But I would assume it's a bell curve kind of deal, right? Just like everything else on the planet, it's a bell curve. The ones that need less help cost less. The ones that need more help cost more, and they offset each other. And the real chunk of everything that's going on is in the middle.
Yeah.
I can't imagine we can't find that number. And realistically, look at that number and go, okay, now what do we need to do to make sure that number is available? I don't think it doesn't sound that complicated to me, but the old funding formula was ridiculously complicated, and the new one is ridiculously complicated in a different way. The new one sounds like it's the simple one that says, hey, we figure about $5,000 a kid, and then we have a category, it adds $100, adds a $500. You got... if the school district is specifically low income, all the students in that school will get an extra $500, and like it goes like it's this whole big tier thing. And like on the surface, it makes sense, but apparently everybody that actually can read it and understand it, it's like, no, not even close. It sounds like that, but when you actually start applying all the math, it doesn't make a bit of sense.
Well, I mean, like if you have 15 kids in a classroom, and then it goes to 20 kids in a classroom, yes, those 5 extra kids use more water, It's about the only thing, but to teach 20 kids versus 15 kids, the cost is not a difference. So, like, where's the difference when it comes? Like,
right. And I think this is like, I think education is like anything else when we talk government. I think one of the big issues in education is we don't know what we're doing, and not that we're not capable of knowing what we're doing, as far as we don't know how to teach or something like that. We don't know what we're trying to make. We know what we're trying to create. It'd be like running a factory where you have all the parts and pieces, but you don't know what you're building. Like, we've got an assembly line, we've got cogs,
we know we
sprockets.
need all this stuff.
We know we need all this stuff to assemble the thing, but we don't know what the thing is. We don't know which part goes first, which part goes second, all these different things to build up. And more importantly, our bottom line is we don't know what the end one is, because we can at least work our way backwards to figure out which sprocket goes where if we start with a finish. We know what it's supposed to look like at the end, so we know that this piece went on last and this piece went on before that, and we can work our way backwards and figure that out. I don't think that's how anybody looks at it, because we've talked about it as far as European models and stuff like that. Where what was it you're talking about? UK college is free, or university is free, whichever one it is. In that but they graduate at like 16. And what we consider junior, senior year in high school is what they're considering university or whatever.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go to a true higher level education, because that university or whatever is that middle ground to prepare you for actual secondary education. Where that's the same as the German model, Sam, that you were talking about, somewhere in that realm?
I think some other colleges funded.
But at least not the funding part, at least, but like the high school ends at 15, 16. And you can choose to continue on to and at that mark is when you start splitting off into, are you going into a vocational, are you going into an apprenticeship, are you going into a university path, where that's when you start filling in those gaps for whatever's after school. But if you're if daddy owns the furniture store downtown that's doing great and you're just going to take over for him, 16 you graduate high school, go to work at the furniture store and you're good.
Like I mean, you're crazy if you think that like people over in England or whatever that doctors did not pay for schooling. It's not happening. It's not free. Not everyone can just go be a lawyer and a doctor for free.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's but again, I think that middle ground is the real question. I think that's the real game to play and really talk about where there's room for adjustment. Because it feels antithetical in my head, because I always joke about how like we don't graduate remotely intelligent individuals at 18, so how are we going to do that at 16? But I think again, it's what are we teaching? Like, what are we actually trying to teach? Because forget the critical race theory shit and trans issues and normalizing gay marriage to kindergartners or whatever the fuck everybody's all pissed about it. That doesn't matter. I don't care. I want to know that they can read and critically read and actually read a book that says, "Ooh, that's." The kid keeps talking about his daddies. That means his parents are gay. Like I want a kid that's smart enough to read that book and pick that up, not be explained to. Oh, did you guys notice here that the dads were gay? He had 2 dads. Did you catch that part? No, I want to that's the thing that we need to be teaching, to be able to read critically and understand, because we don't teach that. We teach just basic fundamental bullshit, and then we don't ever go past the fundamentals, and we don't even teach the fundamentals well. Tennessee's like 47th in the nation in third grade reading.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Sam, you might know this stat. I'm sure there's. I feel like this is just one you would know. I don't know why. I'm sure the U.S. education is probably somewhere in the middle. Certainly not on the top of the world chart of education systems. And I'm sure it's not on the bottom either, because there's
26th.
26th. All right, Max says 26th. Sam, you want to make bets on it?
That sounds about right.
All right, so how would I Google that? Where
countries ranking in education?
There you go.
And I think then it's still going to be kind of split up between your kind of reading and mathematics or science or something like that.
Ooh,
it's really hard to judge.
It says 2022, they're number one.
It's by population. No, it's not by population. World population review. What?
It's probably one of those websites that I use.
Countries with the best education systems, the 2021 Best Countries Report. 1, U.S., 2, UK, 3, Germany, 4, Canada, France. I'm going to have to look what they consider for it.
What's that? Who is this on worldpopulationview.com?
Yeah. What country is ranked highest in education? U.S. News says number one. I call bullshit on that.
Yeah, we don't put out the best.
Finland's been like number one or number two for the past 5 to 10 years.
Well, this other one that I pulled up says what are the top 10 education countries according to the percentage of its population with the highest level of education. This was Switzerland, Luxembourg, Lithuania, Ireland, Japan, Russia. Like U.S. is under 50% of higher level of education. So that's a different stat.
That's the percentage of population with higher level education.
The U.S. Okay, so this one, according to OECD.org, the U.S. ranks 14th in the world in the percentage of 25 to 34-year-olds with higher level of education, 42%. Have an upper level of education, just 29%, one of the lowest levels among OECD countries in enrollment rate, while in the U.S., 60% does. I don't know what the fuck that means. There's no fucking way. It's bullshit. U.S., UK,
I think that's
Canada.
Still talking about percentage of people with degrees.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of the problem with why this issue is a weird one is because, like we're talking about, there's other countries that graduate kids at 16, and what is there like? How do you quantify the education you have? Like, how do you quantify? Like, I think, and I get it. It's a problem, and I ask the question to a lot of school board people and stuff too. It's like how do is it quantifiable? An education level, like how do we quantify it? It's like if there's a scale of 1 to 10, where do our kids graduate high school? Well, what's 10? What does 10 mean that they can? Well, and then they can operate the space shuttle?
And the question is, what do you say that educated is?
That's what I'm saying. Right. If 10 is educated and 1 is an idiot, what does educated actually mean? Like, does that mean that they are capable of going to college?
They know the 2 2s and 2s and there and theirs. Right, because that's a Facebook. Sure. That's all you need to know is to be educated.
Well, at least to not look like an idiot on social media, right? Well, the sale and sell one is one that drives me crazy.
We were driving back from Colorado to Tennessee, and my wife asked something. Can't remember what it was, and I was like, no, we're not going through South Carolina or something like that. And it dumbfounded me that, like, geography, she had no clue on it, or if Pennsylvania was in between, Tennessee and Colorado, or I can't remember what it was, something like that. And I was thinking, and this is a person that has a college degree, But so when you say educated, what does it mean to be educated?
Right. And again, I think that's part of the problem is and I get that that's a moving number. Like, I mean, there's not a universal smart, not smart per se. But I would argue that not smart is more than average in what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some odd people out there that are completely book smart but have no common sense, and vice versa.
True. But I mean, I think one of the things too is like I was having the conversation with the wife earlier. It's like, so my father-in-law passed on yesterday morning or whatever, and I got a text from my boss in the middle of the afternoon because we had a day off and our schedule got weird the day. He was like, hey, just so you know, just run your normal Tuesday. Don't worry about Monday stuff. We're having nothing to do with it. He didn't know that part yet. And so I was like, hey, just so you know.
I didn't know that part yet.
Right. I was like, hey, just so you know, my father-in-law passed this morning. I'm not sure what the schedule is, but I may need to take a day off or whatever. And he was like, okay, cool, whatever. And so we were talking, I was talking to the wife about it today. It's like, because I've had issues with this boss for a while about different little things that are quote normal in the boss-employee relationship, and I think that's one of the problems that we have as a nation, and we don't teach it. You know, in this capitalist evil, whatever the fuck bullshit is we don't teach the idea that it is a mutual exchange in employee-employer relationship. That it's supposed to be, I'm trading my time to produce a thing for you, and you're giving me money for my time. If it's an hourly job or it's a salary job, however you put that exchange together. And I think part of the reason we do, like the government's gotten so involved in that with labor laws and stuff too, which makes it another secondary problem to that. But we're not taught in school how to be an employee, like what it means to be an employee, and not what your rights are as far as like governmental interlude or whatever, but that this is a voluntary exchange. That I want more, not because I want more or deserve more or whatever. It's because whatever the reason that I say I want more money is, it's like, can I justify that? Can I do the math and say, look, I am the best employee you have. I do the most work. I'm the least problematic for you. I know you like, we joke all the time about the other guys sucking ass and I'm the best one you've got and stuff like that. And, the way it's working is I'm working more and not getting paid anymore right now. And I have a problem with that. I can justify my excuse for saying, hey, I need a raise. And I can justify to say, hey, there is a line somewhere. I'm not exactly where it is, but we're approaching it. And we need to have a conversation about that. And it freaks him out. And I think, 10 years ago when I was running the bar, if a bartender or kitchen guy came to me and said something like that, I would have freaked out too. Because I was trained to manage in that I own you. You come to work when I tell you to come to work. You do the things I tell you to do while you're here. And whatever the fuck you're doing elsewhere is none of my business, and that's fine. But be here when I tell you to be here, and everything's fine. It's like, well, the more I think about it, the more it's like, no, it is a relationship just like any other relationship. And there's a trust, and there's an obligation, and there's a what's the word? There's a loyalty that is deserved and not. And I think a lot of times people get too loyal to their jobs. It's like I've been thinking long and hard about 2-week notice. Like, why would I give a 2-week notice? If they get pissed off and tell me to quit or tell me I'm fired, they're not going to give me 2 weeks to work it out. They're not going to pay me for 2 more weeks just because they don't want me to work there anymore. Why do I don't owe them 2 weeks just like they don't owe me 2 weeks. It's a voluntary exchange.
Yeah, but if you fire them, the 2-week notice is for not burning that bridge.
Right.
And that's all it is.
All right, it's a please give me a good recommendation but I mean, it's still a weird spot. I told you I got a call about the one kid that used to work for us, Dallas. I got a call from somebody that was doing his references, was calling for his references. I mean, real weird phone call. I mean, not a weird phone call. Like, it's just totally like, hey, they put you not as a reference, but as a previous employer. We had some questions about his employment history with you guys. And it's like, hey, you know what? I got a lawyer friend, and I'm not going to answer a lot of questions here, just so you know. And they're like, well, was he a good employer or not? It's like, I'm not going to answer that question. Would you rehire him? No. I can answer that question. Well, why wouldn't you rehire him? I'm not going to answer that question. And I keep going back and forth with them. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this isn't very useful, and I understand that you're just trying to do a thing or whatever, but it's like, I don't want to even be remotely viewed as trying to inhibit him from getting a job, because hell, it was 10 fucking years ago almost at this point. So if I don't know who he is anymore. He hasn't worked for me in like 5-7 years, something like that.
And he only worked for like 2 weeks.
Right. And it's like, I have no ill will towards the guy. It's just, but we fired him with cause, And I didn't tell him why, but as I was talking to, I didn't remember why initially. And as I was talking to him, I started kicking back there. And yeah, no, I wouldn't hire him again. But that's because our policy in store, because he burned that bridge in his process. But again, I don't know. The main point of it is the fact that it's weird that I tell my boss things and say, hey, this is where I'm at. And I'm not trying to throw ultimatums out or anything, but at the same time, this is a voluntary exchange, and it's getting to the point where I'm not comfortable with my half of the exchange. And if you don't want to change your half, that's fine. I'm just letting you know where I stand here. And at some point, this is going to come to a head. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. It freaks him out. He doesn't like that I have another job and that I have other income and stuff like that because I'm not dependent on him. He's told me that. And it's dude, I get it. I understand that as an employer myself, as somebody who has employees that work for me. I like the idea that when I say jump, they say how high because I have to. But that's not the kind of boss I want to be. And that's not the kind of relationship we're supposed to have. But going back to the beginning of why I went on this long diatribe is that we're not taught that in school. We're not taught that you're allowed to evaluate yourself and the job you're doing and go, hey, because that's my justification for my job. My job is dumb. I get overpaid for what I do, theoretically. But I'm comfortable with the exchange of where I'm at. Not because it takes a lot of effort out of me or anything like that. It is a comfortable exchange for me. It does what I need. I put in the time that I feel is willing to put in for the amount I'm getting and the effort and blah, 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 blah. It matches up to me. And I can justify that to myself, which is truly why I keep the job. I can't justify quitting the job because it doesn't cost me anything to keep it, essentially. And so, but my point being is we're not taught that aspect, and that you're allowed to evaluate yourself, but the job too. You can't just say, well, I feel like I'm worth more. I need more because I have X number of bills. Well, you might need more and have X number of bills, but you're still just doing this thing. You have to understand where you sit in the whole hierarchy of the company too. You can't say, well, I have personal needs, so you have to pay me more. No.
Yeah, you can't say, I have the skills of a doctor, and that's why I should make that working at McDonald's.
Right.
The McDonald's job still is only getting this much money. So you may be a great employee and highly educated and have all this kind of stuff.
You might be the most accurate ketchup squirter in the shop.
Yes. But at the end of the day, the job is only worth this much.
Right. And again, I think it's one of those things that really upsets me when you get into some of the more socialistic-leaning people in conversation and they try to justify it backwards. I saw this, there's this speech and some economist per se going on. It's the reason you get a wage is because that is a percentage of what production you're doing. And it's yes, that is correct. And he's you're being stolen from as the employee. And it's ooh, all right, where are we going here? And I'm trying to follow this guy's speech, and he's basically talking about how, if you're working in a factory and you're making $10 an hour, that only works for the employer if your $10 an hour is worth more than that. And the difference in your $10 an hour in labor and the sellable production of what you produce is the profit for the company. It's sorta.
Well, that works on anything. If you buy in something, you have to buy something that's worth more than to sell it. If you're in the retail business, you have to buy something cheaper than what it's worth so you can make a profit off of it.
Or that's or you have to provide a service
so what he said is exactly correct.
Right, that's what I'm saying. His assertion was correct, except he framed it as your boss is stealing from you. Because if they're taking your $10 an hour and getting $12 an hour of production out of you, they're stealing $2 an hour from you. And it's well, okay, well, you go buy the machine then. Buy the machine to do the thing. You don't need the owner or manager of the company. You don't need what they provide. It takes all of that value out of the conversation. It's I get what you're trying to push here, but it's not accurate.
Well, it's when my sister-in-law said, well, she was talking about wages in the upper 1%, and Jeff Bezos makes 1,000 times more than his average employee or whatever.
That is a problem.
Well, no, because if you have,
I think there's a go ahead.
If you have 100,000 employees, working for you, and each of those employees are producing a certain amount of income for you.
Right. If you have 100 employees and you're making $1 per employee, if you have 1,000 employees and making $1 per employee, and I think that is one of the big differences. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago with AC. AC's been putting out the premise and trying to figure out why in the 50s a blue collar middle class guy could make enough money for an entire household, and we can't do that anymore. And one of the things that's often talked about is the employer to owner ratio. And over the span of the last 50 years or so, it went from like back in the 50s or 60s. Sam, I don't know, do you remember the number? It was something like 7 times. So if an employee,
something like that.
Yeah, so if an employee made $10,000 a year, the owner made 70.
So if we go back to the 70s, the president of General Motors, did he make only 7 times what his average employee made?
And I think that's one of the things. I think that's
right. No,
because I think you're right. I think you hit it on the head, because I think the distinction is that, especially like pre-'80s, there weren't a lot of companies that were super huge. Like there's no Amazon. There was nothing near the size of Amazon or Walmart in the 80s.
What are you talking about? Well, we were breaking up unions.
Unions? No.
Or, sorry, not unions. Monopolies.
With the oil companies and stuff like that.
That was before that. But you still have monopolies. The company my dad worked for was split, I think, in the 60s or 70s. Into 2 different.
Georgia Pacific?
Yep. Got split into Louisiana Pacific.
So it was like Southern Pacific, and then it split to Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama.
But see, that's you're talking about railroads, right?
No, lumber, mills, paper.
Oh, I got you. But I mean, if you just have people that employ a lot more people nowadays than you have people that were employed.
I still think
employees in the 70s.
To push back a little bit, Sam, I still don't think the big oil back in the 30s or 40s or whatever that was. Yeah. I don't think Georgia Pacific. I don't think any of those got near the total volume that is. I don't think Ford Motor Company. I don't think anybody's been near as big as Amazon, as far as number of employees. Period. But I get what you're saying. You're not wrong. I follow what you're saying. You're not wrong. But I think the ratio was different then too, and that the ratio was different, and that for every 1 or 2 of, I guess, Southern Pacific Paper Company or whatever, the handful that were big back then versus all the small businesses that were around versus now.
Well, I mean, it'd be one thing if somebody makes $1 million a year, right? And then their average employee only made $10,000 a year. But when you want to bring up Jeff Bezos, what is and how much Amazon makes? What's the average wage at Amazon? I bet we can find that up on the internet.
I mean, warehouse and stuff is like $15.
Well, I'm just saying the average wage, not just warehouse workers. You can't take the lowest person and say, "Oh, Jeff Bezos makes more than the janitor." Well, he fucking runs a $1 billion company. I hope so. He makes 1,000 times % of the janitor that works there.
The average estimated annual salary, including base bonus at Amazon, is $114 or $54 an hour, while the estimated median salary is $180 or $86.
So the average employee at Amazon makes $114,000 a year, and you think that the average employee at Amazon needs to make more money because Jeff Bezos?
All right, hold on. Help me out, Sam. Mean and average, or median and average. Which one's accurate for what we need to talk about?
Well, it doesn't matter.
We'll take
the lower one.
Mean is average.
Okay, so mean is the average.
Median is just the middle number in a number set.
Okay.
That's if you take all the income and divide it by the employees.
Right. If you take the janitor to Bezos. Yeah. Right. Okay. So the average. Okay. Average is 114. That's a lot. Well, but still, that's even with that. With the average of it, Bezos himself, if he's counted in that list, which he's not the CEO anymore anyway. But if he were counted in that list, he's going to bring his income is going to bring that average up by like 50,000.
Yes, but it's the average estimated annual salary. That's how much people get paid. So he's not in there.
Okay, I don't know.
Unless he pays himself a salary out of the business, but I would think that's not.
I get what you're saying.
But you know what I'm saying? So you can't really say if what we're talking about is correct, that the average employee makes $114,000 at Amazon, and you're mad that they should get the average should be higher because Jeff Bezos made $1 billion. Like,
right? How many other companies?
What's the average wage at Walmart?
It just breaks it up by state. Cashiers are 17 to 46. That's weird. You make less in Knoxville than Oak Ridge, according to a couple of sites. It didn't give us the same chart. Bummer.
But anyway, the point is, yeah, you know, if you're working for a big company, excuse me, you're going to make
that was
more.
Meaty. I mean, right, and I agree with the premise of what you're at, but I do think there is an educational, and I think that, again, to me, and Sam disagrees with this 100%. I think every single thing, if we break it down, it's education, because I think we are taught, MBAs are taught that profit's all that matters. They're educated. The education is that it's stock return. Period. Nothing else matters. Lowest cost, highest income. That's all that matters. That's what we're taught. And it's supported by legislation, specifically through lobbying and shit like that. Like, and that's a problem. That's one of the other problems to me that's part of it. And so I think that, again, I think it goes back to an education thing. We're not taught. You know, I don't know. I doubt my boss has a master's in business by any means, but you know, somewhere in the process, in the field, he was taught that you treat your employees like as if you're their parent. They need you to exist, and you get to tell them what and how to do it because they need you, and you get to flex that muscle on them, and that's how you manage employees. He was taught that somewhere, whether that was through his education or somewhere else. I mean, he went. I mean, my guess on him, I don't know this for a fact. I could ask him, but my guess on this, because he was a salesperson for one of the liquor companies before he came to work for us. So my guess is he was a bartender, like everybody else that's in liquor sales. He was a server, bartender, maybe a restaurant manager for a little while, and then got over to the distribution side, then worked that for a little while and got into the lower level management stuff there, whether it's he came over to take a management position or he came over from a management position, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is how he was trained through the real world example or an educational example, that employees that don't need you are a problem. And that grosses me out. Like, I don't like that. The more I think about it, the more, like, it has changed a lot of views on a lot of different things for me. Like, and it's changed how I look at our staff. Like, I don't like that. And I don't want that to be the way we introduce. I don't want to be like that to our staff. I want it to be comfortable to say, hey, I need you to do this. Like, I need it. But almost as much as it would be a favor for a friend as it is, do it or I'll fire you. Like, I'd never want to say that phrase. Mm-hmm. Although I get close sometimes, and I don't like. It bothers me. It really bothers me. And again, I think we don't know any better to evaluate ourselves and our jobs for what they actually are. We're too hung up on I deserve more, but don't have a good excuse of why.
Yeah, show me why.
Right. And so I don't know that's where it's one of my very stuck spots that I don't know what to do with.
So where should these lessons be taught in school?
I mean, I think it's I don't know. Like, I think what is okay. I guess to answer your question with a question, I don't know. Like, what like.
Well, I was just saying you keep I mean, they're wonderful gems of wisdom, but I'm just wondering, like, when and what point do you expect these things to be taught in school if you're going to say these things should be taught in school?
Okay. Okay. So,
well, where's it being taught right now that just because you're a human being, you deserve something? Because that seems like that's kind of the going thing. Social media. So we need to teach on social media.
I mean, maybe I think
that's where a lot of people get their stupid shit from, right?
Exactly right. So
I saw it on a meme, so it's got to be true.
It's got to be true. So in high school, we have social media class.
I mean, I think there should be some dedicated time to how to interact on the internet, for sure. Maybe not how to interact, but how to understand the internet. I mean, so I caught the oldest with some porn the other day.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'm not mad, whatever, dude, it's cool, but it's not real. That's not a real woman. It's not a real girl. It was anime, so it was absolutely not real. But it's like, it's not how,
I was like,
that's not how girls act. That's not how it works. Just understand that that's not reality. That's not even the realm of beginnings of reality at all. And I don't know. I'm sure. I know that would be a weird topic at school. I wouldn't do that specifically, but I think
you will never sleep with a girl that looks like this.
I think
just figure that out now.
You're my kid, buddy. You look like me. I'm sorry. I hit a super homer on your mom. So deal with it. But no, like I mean, regardless of the porn side of it, I think that general, like the internet it's not real. The people on there aren't real. They might sound real. They might look real. They're not real. It's not real people. It's not real conversation. It's a stupid waste of time, and I know I'm the worst of it of the group that's in conversation right now as far as interacting with people on it. But it's not real conversation. It's not real people. It's not how the real world works. But I mean, how like one of the problems we're having with him right now is he's sneaking into like VR chat rooms and stuff like that. Like that's all he wants is to get online and talk to other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I get it. I understand where he's coming from at it and stuff like that. And I'm trying to figure out how to manage that properly as a parent or whatever. But, you know, I mean, hell, like, we grew up before the internet existed. And I am super grateful for that. Like, the fact that, like, when I was in high school, it was dial-up. And porn was, like, pictures. And I was done before, like, 3 or 4 pictures finished uploading. So it took that. Like, it's like, ooh, boobs, blah, done.
You didn't even get to her toes.
Right. You know, and so it's like, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I'm grateful that I'm scared to death of my kids growing up in the world. Like, that's just the way this world is with the internet and the way it works.
I'm scared to what it's going to be like for our kids as kids if we make it that far as a society. You know, because our parents, you know, they bitched about all the stuff that we had, right, you know, growing up.
I mean, but I think that's I think that's a generational norm. But I think the one difference in this one is that there is like psychological changes to the way this thing's working. Like, I don't think having a Nintendo versus having no video games a generation before is the same jump as we had Nintendos when we were kids.
Well, yeah, because you had to get, you know, all your kids had to come over to your house, and people complained about who was up next to play.
Right.
Nobody wanted to sit there and watch people play.
But there was still a physical, social thing. That
exactly.
There was actual people interacting with each other, even if it was to fight over the controller.
And now people are like playing with people they don't even know.
Right.
And people who they think they know.
Yeah.
That they don't know.
Yeah. Ready Player One was probably the perfect. I mean, Ready Player One was a perfect movie in the concept of it. Like, you don't know anything about what you're dealing with, about who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't know. Like, I think that. I don't know. Maybe this same exact. Maybe our parents had the same exact conversation in a different version of it when we were kids, and their parents had the same exact conversation when they were listening to the Beatles or whatever the fuck it was. I don't know. I think it's normal to have that leap, but I don't know. Maybe I'm fatalistic about our version of it versus theirs. I think ours is. I feel like ours is bigger.
The technology has been it's like quadrupled in. You know, from what it was from when we were kids to when our parents, you know, were our age.
Well, you ever seen the movie King of Kong?
King of Kong?
Yeah. It's like documentary style kind of thing about like in the 80s where like Donkey Kong, where people would go and play in these tournaments for money, you know, playing the stand-up Donkey Kong, and people put grids on their screen at the house to figure out how the stuff, and it was like, and they were like nerds and geeks and stuff. And now you're cool as shit if you're playing video games online for money, and you know, these League of Legends and all this kind of stuff. And it's a whole different.
I don't know, because I think part of the problem with that one is that the nerds have always been have always had the long-term power. Like, they always come out on the other side. It's just the perception in school has changed.
Well, when I was growing up, I played D&D, and it was geeky and nerdy, and like, oh, you playing D&D? It is getting so popular. Like, it's reemerged.
Well,
about the people that are playing D&D. Yeah, Stranger Things is really helping out a lot. But it's funny how it's coming around.
I'm like, it fascinates me that it's stuck around. Considering, like, maybe that's a good sign.
And it's still, I mean, they've brought some technology in it, where you can have your character sheet on your phone, there's digital rolling, that kind of stuff, but there's nothing online really. Like there's people that join the chat room and play, but majority of it's still doing it person to person kind of.
All right, and the game's
gaming.
still in your head. I mean,
Yes.
the game is built to be in your head, and I think that I can't help but giggle at it. I'm a total hater on D&D, ain't gonna lie, but I have respect for that idea of it. Is that it is somehow continuing to stay popular despite its 100% lack of tech.
Yes. Like they've added tech to it, but at the end of the day, it's still somebody telling a story and you trying to interpret the story they're telling.
Right. I hate that I start to understand parts and pieces now too. like there was somebody who was like, I saw a post of some guys like, I threw some random character or some a statue of some goddess that I pulled out of the random back of some book or whatever in some room, and the party picked it up and carried it everywhere, and they were getting chased by whatever, and they still carried it. And they I put it in the story as a throwaway, but everybody in the party was so attached to it. I had to go do more research to figure out who it was and more story about the backstory of this goddess or whatever. And it's like, I understand what he's talking about. That hurts.
That's funny.
That hurts.
Well, I mean, so we do these Comic-Cons where we have booths at. We got one at Fanboy in August, and with my wife and all her crafts and all her stuff she does, our number one selling stuff is D&D stuff. And so now, half our booth is Dungeons & Dragons stuff, and it sells. We sold out last time because a guy from South Carolina that has a gaming store, at the end of the thing, he was like, you want to wholesale all what you have left? He's like, this stuff's really cool. I want to sell it in my store. So we sold out all our D&D stuff to him at a cheaper rate, obviously.
Right, but you didn't have to take it home.
Didn't have to take it home.
That's a win.
Still made money off of it. But it amazed me how it's in this day and time, like you said, with video games and all this stuff, it's still
right, I mean, theoretically, going. League of Legends or whatever is basically the same game.
Yes. No. It's a medieval game, I guess, with spells and fighting and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's
a universal sandbox story versus the specific one the Dungeon Master is telling in your version.
Yeah, League of Legends is the same game every time.
Yeah. Until they put a new season out. I guess maybe a better...
League of Legends is more like...
Fortnite's probably a little closer, theoretically.
League of Legends is more like chess.
Okay.
It's the same board every time, and you just learn how to play.
Right. Fortnite's probably more like or more like Dungeons & Dragons when it gets down to it.
No.
Yeah. You have the same end goal.
No.
The game changes every time.
No, we're close.
All right, fine.
You're wrong.
Obviously, I don't get it. All right, so you got to get.
Yeah, I do. I gotta go.
Well, we got another. Sam, you want to hang out for another 15, 30 minutes, something like that?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, we'll see you guys.
See you, Max.
See you, man.
All right, let me pause it and clear that channel, and then I'll come right back. All right, that's cool. It's nice to have Max in the room. I haven't had him in the room for a little bit. But, I don't know. What did we miss? What's else going on this week?
What did we miss?
I mean, I'm sure we missed 1,000 things. I still think I still think this Governor Lee story is the one that I still can't quite wrap my head around why it's such a big deal. Like why, maybe again, this is the problem with my Facebook page.
Well, I mean, this is the guy that the governor wants to, I guess, set up a school system in the state, correct?
Correct.
All right. And he just has most disdain, or I guess disdain for most teachers. Or just, you don't see that as problematic? He wants to set up a school system, but I mean, what kind of teachers is he wanting to bring into the school system if he's saying anybody can be a teacher?
Right. I get that, except it's not really a new idea per se out of the career of Governor Lee.
Hey, you kept saying people were surprised. I don't know what you were talking about when you're wondering how people are surprised by this.
Right. I continue that thought process. I don't understand why anybody who's paying attention, like to me, again, like I guess the takeaway to me is that
most people knew that Bill Lee was for charter schools, vouchers, whatever.
Right. He wants to privatize schools. It's been a very open topic of his. He's never kind of hide it or try to sneak it in. He's always been, hey, this is something I'm after. And so,
right. And
so I mean, again, I guess my point is that I don't find this particularly surprising out of his political career as far as schools go. And again, I agree that there are probably plenty of people who didn't take the second to think about it, but those same people that didn't take a second to think about it before aren't going to take very long to think about it now either, I guess is my issue. Does that make sense?
No, not really.
Okay. Well,
I think you're talking about two totally different things.
Okay.
At least from what I'm hearing.
Okay. Well, break it down for me, because help me understand, because I'm confused, obviously.
You want me to explain what I think you're saying?
Yeah. Help me. Right. Tell me what you're hearing, and let me see if I can restate what I'm trying to say in a way that makes it more understandable to you.
That the pushback on this Arn person, people should have already known this because Lee was already for charter schools.
Well, okay, so yes. First,
I think you're mixing up the pushback on this, what this guy said, and then I swear I've read it in a couple different things, and like in that same video, Bill Lee's like nodding his head as this guy was saying stupid shit. So I think that's where people, I guess, are connecting the two even more.
Right. Well, but I think
Bill Lee agrees with this guy.
Right. But I think you're right in that I guess part of the issue I'm having is that it's not. It's one of the things that said that is the argument at play here is not what he did; it's what he didn't do. What Bill Lee didn't do was stop this Arn guy and say, no, teachers are good and teachers are smart or whatever. Like, that's one of the...
I don't think anybody expected him to like stand up in the middle of the conference and do that.
I 100% disagree, because that is exactly what people are pitching fits about. And like, I mean, so my good friend Brian, who hates me, like one of his complaints, and it's not just him exclusively, it's just whatever, I like to throw his name in because I like to talk shit about him, was that he put out a post or something like that said everybody needs to contact their or contact their school board rep they have now, and or who they're looking at voting for or whatever, and ask them to condemn the statements of this Arn character. And that by not saying no, you're saying yes.
It's a little suicide pact,
I guess. Is that by allowing this to be said without voicing how terrible it is, you're accepting and acknowledging and agreeing with it.
Well, I mean, in this day and age of news being a constant 24-hour news cycle, it has become a little bit more expected that once something hits like that you've got to put out a statement. I mean, anytime like a company's mentioned, something bad happening with Acme Company, you're going to expect Acme to respond to it, or else people are going to start assuming that Acme's poisoning the water at their local facility or whatever. You can expect them to respond and be like, no, we're not doing this. This is not true.
Okay.
Or when a spokesperson for a certain company says some stupid shit, you have the PR of that company is automatically coming out like, this does not reflect our company. He's speaking on himself. He's not speaking as an employee of this company or whatever.
Okay. I mean, I think...
So where, I mean, you can get tied to it if you don't disown it to a certain extent.
Well, I think that is that is an issue that the public needs to get over. I think that's a problem in and of itself. Now, I think that goes for the outside. I think Billy specifically, because he was in the room, that's a different conversation. But I think, like, if I were running for District 18 right now, and I didn't make a statement specifically on this, I don't think it's fair to assume that I agree with it because I didn't publicly say it's bad. I don't think that's
his company or whatever. I don't know if he's the CEO or director or whatever. I think they put out a statement, but it didn't really respond to the actual statements that he had made. It wasn't, we support him or we disown or, don't agree with his statements. I think it was more just touting their mission statement or whatever.
Right.
It was like, why'd you even put out a response if you're not going to respond to?
But I think that I think politically on the straight political of what's going on right now, I think politically, honestly, I think it was a smart move on Lee's part politically. Is one, he has the room to evade specifically saying he agrees with somebody calling teachers stupid, but the perception is there for the people that are upset about what's going on in their schools that he agrees that teachers are stupid. Like, I think it was a very savvy political move. Do I think it's correct? I don't know. I still take issue with the whole, if you don't say no, you're saying yes thing. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I agree. He could win or lose either way. So maybe his PR person said it's better just not to say anything.
See, I don't know. I think in the political landscape right now, I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, I don't think the abortion issue is going to change the needle specifically strongly in our state races that we have locally. I don't think this part of schools is going to push any Republicans out. I don't think anybody who's running I don't think Testerman or Elaine Davis, I don't think this hurts their race at all as being aligned with the party that hates public school teachers or whatever. I think economics is the number one issue. I think the number one issue that's going to change people's mind about who they're voting for if they already have, if they generally lean one way or the other and they're going to come off of their general leaning, it's going to be an economics conversation. I can't imagine anything else in the world we live in right now being the top topic to get somebody to change their vote from who they would normally vote for. I mean, maybe a teacher that is traditionally Republican is like, this is fucked up, I'm not voting for the Governor Lee again. But I don't think that's a huge enough number to make an impactful difference.
I don't think there's that much disdain for teachers at this moment, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think that disdain might be an overstatement, but I think there are significantly frustrated parents that are tired and exhausted of this, and it's too much. It's too much for too little.
Exhausted of what?
Of poor results, of not feeling like their kids are getting a good education, of feeling like that they're having to dodge and duck and dive and weave and do all the bullshit and try to keep up with and pay extra money for this and fundraise for that. I mean, I think that's a fault of parents, to be fair, and myself included. I want to just dump my kids and go. I don't want to deal with other stuff. And I think that's a fault, and I think that's something that, again, I don't know where I learned that and how that became what I consider normal. But I think I think schools have become too complicated for parents to be involved with, the ones that want to, and too demanding for the parents that don't want to. And I think both sets of parents are getting frustrated with that. Parents that want to get involved feel like they're falling on deaf ears when they're trying to talk and trying to make changes and trying to help. Parents that don't want to get involved are being forced to do too much or spend too much to keep their kids in and get the education that they think they need, and it's not quite to par. I think I think a lot of parents are in that camp.
I mean, I saw it happen in scouting and even in sports. Like, we sign them up for local soccer. I'm pretty sure like the main sign up for it, they were already basically saying that we don't have enough coaches. Like, someone's going to have to step up and sign up to be a coach.
Right.
Or it happens where there are, just those few, consistent volunteers, and then those few finally start getting burnt out. Either A, start doing a shitty job, or just right. B, like, I'm not doing this anymore. Someone is going to have to take this over. Right. I don't know if it's just a lack of wanting to be there and support. I mean, I think most people are just kind of busy and just kind of burnt out in general. They're like, I was just working all day.
Absolutely right. I think it rolls into other stuff. It rolls into the, how many households need 2 incomes to make it by. Like that. I work all day. The wife works all day. We get home. This isn't true for our household, but there's plenty of households that everybody's working and trying to juggle soccer schedules and all the other shit going on just to get the kid there so they can participate, let alone be a coach or be a leader of some sort in the group.
All right. So they've got an hour or 2 of time of actual, maybe family time before it's like, all right, go to bed. We're going to do this again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's exhausting. And I think, but again, I don't know. I acknowledge that I don't have a particularly great solution for this. But I do think I don't know. I think we need to rework. I think we need a hard reimagining of how schools work, because I don't think that they're working now. And I don't think that's a unique thought that I have.
Right.
And the problem to me is the way the system works is that you have to get the state to be the one to make the change. And that's a hard hill to climb, because I don't know, Nashville might be happy with the way their schools are working. And this system that the state's put in place might be good for Nashville kids, but it's not good for Knoxville kids. But they have to be the same. There's not a lot of room for local interpretation of how to deal with state education.
Do you really think there's a large difference between Nashville students and Knoxville students?
All right, bad example. Maybe the Roane County is happy with their situation. And
I mean, even rural schools. How do you? What kind of differences? I mean, yeah, I guess you've got their home life maybe being a little bit different. Maybe, I mean, well, not even. I was about to say agricultural, but even that's gone pretty much to the wayside. You don't have as many people like, hey, I can't come to school next week. It's it's hay season.
All right. Well, I mean, fine. Then that's better for my hope in this thing. If everybody, if more or less, then if the state in general doesn't like the way education is working, as far as the parents across the state don't like again, I think it leads to why Governor Lee can get away with what happened. Because I think the state in general is not happy with the education system, and they're open to the idea of something new, even if everybody's telling them it's terrible. I think that's.
And are our grades going down?
I mean, like I said, I think what did it say? Tennessee is 45, 46, 47 in the nation in number of percentage of students at third grade reading level, and it's in the 40 somethings for percentage of fifth graders that are to age level in math. I don't know. And okay, so like we tried to look up the stats, and Google said that the U.S. is number one in education. I don't feel like that's true here.
I think I think you said that was like a USA News or something, like
right.
Actual like website was USA or whatever.
But I'm just saying
they're not going to say different,
right? But I'm just saying, like, for conversation's sake, maybe it's true,
right?
That from whatever statistical point that they are calling it, the United States has the best education system on the planet. Sure as shit is in Tennessee. Whatever it is elsewhere that's doing better is pulling the average up nationally, because we're not doing it here. I don't feel like we're doing it here, because I don't feel like, I mean, and again, the number one issue to me is I don't know what we're trying to build, and I don't think they do either. And so how are you supposed to know what parts you need and what kind of machinist and other personnel you need on site when you don't know what you're trying to build? Because until recently, it was you're trying to build kids that can go to college, because that was the metric, is the percentage of students going to college, which Tennessee apparently is like number 5 in the nation in number of students who graduate post-secondary with the least amount of debt. Tennessee has got the best funding for secondary education of anywhere in the nation, or just top 4 or 5 in the nation in helping pay for secondary education. Which all that says to me is our lower education sucks. But
people are smart enough not to go to out-of-state and pay out-of-state tuition.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, I learned something in math class.
Don't go to Kentucky for school.
$100,000 is more than $40,000.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I don't know, like what fuck, I don't know. I don't know how to word what I'm trying to get to here. It's just other than what would you like.
I think I get what you're trying to say, but I mean, I think it is a conundrum of, I guess, probably the education, quote unquote, society in general is, the everyday life that we live now wasn't the same as it was 30, 40 years ago. So there is that kind of scramble to, like, what do we need to focus on? I mean, like you said, they are focusing more on computers. Like I didn't take a computer class at all in high school. Took a typing class just to teach us how to type,
right.
Freshman year. Even then, I think still had a number of English classes I took where you could still handwrite papers, to where I'd say now it's probably even in 3rd and 4th grade.
Oh yeah,
if you're doing any kind of paper, it has to be typed.
Like, so every kid in Knox County School
probably can't even print that shit out anymore. You got to turn it in on a damn flash.
Every kid in Knox County School has a Chromebook, and that was pandemic stuff and whatever. Right. And at some point, they just stop letting the kids take them home. They have to stay in the classroom. But so they'll take tests at their desk on their computer.
Yeah.
And they'll do stuff like that on their computer. And but they won't let them take them home because they keep getting broken and whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I guess it's part of the problem. But anyway,
I think a lot of people think they have some solution because they say, their particular kid isn't learning this or that. I mean, everyone even taught this, this in high school. I mean, some people are visual learners, some people more are auditory learners, listening by ear. More people more tactile, actually doing something. They learn something differently. So I think teachers are struggling with that as well. I also say some of the lack of education is due to just larger class sizes. I know I've at least seen in some of the Knox County elementary schools, class sizes have gotten larger and larger.
Right.
We kind of joked about it's going 15 to 20. I mean, you're talking 30, 35 kids in each classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a problem. Yeah, and this situation with Lee doesn't help. But at least for Knox County's sake, because they're having problems keeping enough teachers on staff to hit the current numbers. And we had a bunch of issues last year with no subs being available and this, that, and the other. But all right, I'm going to do last call. You got anything else?
Yeah, specific.
I feel like I forgot something. I hope everybody had a good 4th, I guess. Yeah, all right. That's the show, everybody.
Do it.
Woo! All right, little combo show. One in the studio, one on the phone. Max had to jet early to pick up his kid from work, that kind of stuff. Anyway, we're almostagreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out my voter guide 22. It's too late to register, so if you haven't, too bad. But if you have registered, you got KGIS links as well as Knox County Election Commission. While you're, you can figure out what district you're in, where your voting location is, stuff like that. And then while you're on the same page, you can scroll down. You can see all the interviews with all the candidates that I've had a chance to get in. Try to have links to everybody's website so you can learn a little bit more about each candidates there. Compass Knox has some good breakdowns on it if you're a Compass Knox subscriber. If not, you should subscribe to them. They're good people. Still working on scheduling a few more people. I got to shake a few hands at the parade and met a few people, gave them my card, see if I can get a couple more people scheduled. So we'll try to get a few more shows scheduled, but got a bunch of busy stuff going on, midsummer craziness. We're all back into school and stuff like that. So anyway, almost agreement, everybody. Have a great night. We appreciate y'all listening.